you're the growth manager, the guy that, doing the growth stuff. And also, what is Bancor, the most simplified way to explain what Bancor is?
Yeah, so Bancor is an on-chain liquidity protocol. And what that essentially means is it's a protocol that lives on top of these things we call automated market makers or liquidity pools. And it's essentially a new way to do decentralized exchange where you don't need an order book, you don't need a trader on the opposite side of the trade. And thirdly, anyone can own a piece of the exchange. Anyone can stake their tokens on the exchange and generate fees from trades that occur.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. And so you got the token in the middle, which you can get those kind of returns from, the passive income. That's the kind of, the token price is absolutely killing it the last few weeks. It's actually been skyrocketing. So we'll get into that in a second. But
hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Hope you guys are all staying safe and healthy out there. Today I'm going to be going over Bancor. Here on the screen you can see what the agenda for the video is. If you guys are short on time and you guys want to jump around, feel free to go ahead and utilize the timestamps in the description below. Before we dive into the video, I'd like to welcome you guys to sign up for my crypto newsletter. I tend to focus on centralized and decentralized finance. Not only do I keep you updated on the latest news, but I also arm you with tools you guys need to be more efficient with your time. For instance, I have a community member dedicated to upkeeping this interest rate tracker. It's basically taking all the interest rates offered by various lending platforms consolidated onto one spreadsheet. And recently we even added the staking rates on Atomic Wallet. So if you have Neo, Tezos, BAN tokens, you can reference this sheet to see what the current rates are on that platform. So if that sounds like something that intrigues you, just click the link in the description below, enter your email address here, and you'll be eligible to receive the free copy. And if you're interested, there's also a paid version as well. And it doesn't end there. If you guys wanted to join a community of like-minded individuals, I highly recommend that you guys check out my Discord channel. The link is in the description below. It's a great forum for you guys to share and exchange your thoughts and insights with other crypto investors. The link below is only going to be active for the first 50 clicks. If you guys are interested, make sure you guys move fast. Otherwise, you'll have to wait for my subsequent video to gain access to my Discord channel. That being said, let's go ahead and dive into this video. All right, to begin with, let's talk about what Bancor exactly is. Bancor is a decentralized exchange protocol. Sometimes they refer to DEXs as liquidity protocols or automated market makers. And whenever you hear buzzwords like that, they're usually referring to a decentralized exchange. Bancor is unique in that, unlike other liquidity networks, it doesn't use an order book. Instead, it leverages a logarithmic market-making mechanism through the use of smart tokens to ensure continuous on-chain liquidity between blockchain-based assets. And unlike a centralized exchange where a third party controls everything and all the fees generated go into their pockets, with this protocol, everybody has the ability to provide liquidity and therefore get a piece of the action. To make that conceptually more palatable for you guys, imagine providing that liquidity to the centralized exchange and in return being eligible to receive a substantial amount of the fees. And Bancor allows everyone to do this in a permissionless way, no KYC needed. Everybody is eligible to provide liquidity. And on top of that, Bancor protocol currently supports both Ethereum and EOS blockchains, as well as support for hundreds of other ERC20 and EOS-based tokens. But unfortunately, despite offering these services, compared to other DEXs, in terms of volume, Bancor only commands less than 4% of the entire market share. Before I dive into some of the shortcomings, let me go over some of the advantages Bancor has. Number one, there's no counterparty unlike a centralized exchange. This means orders don't have to be matched between buyers and sellers. When you go on the exchange, you're essentially trading against smart contracts. Secondly, there's this continuous liquidity because Bancor uses an automated pricing mechanism which increases a token's price and its supply each time it's purchased. Thirdly, there's no spread. And that kind of builds on what I said earlier about trading against a smart contract. Since you're not trading against other people, there's virtually no spread. So to shift over, let's talk about some of the problems with Bancor. And in the next segment, I'm going to explain to you guys exactly how Bancor plans to overcome these problems with their next big update. So the biggest problem for many of these automated money market maker protocols, including Uniswap, is that they're subject to impermanent loss. To simply put it, impermanent loss means that you're going to get less money for providing liquidity than you would have for just holding on to your token. And the reason they call it impermanent loss is because technically it's not a loss until you withdraw your funds from the liquidity pool. So for example, let's say that ETH is trading at $100. You put 1 ETH and 100 DAI into a pool. The price of Ethereum goes to $200, but when you take your funds out, you end up with 0.5 ETH instead of the 1 ETH that you put in. And so instead of realizing that 100% increase by holding onto your token, because you put it into the pool, you actually lost money. Even though in terms of your dollar value, you're getting the exact same amount in. You're getting $100 worth of Ethereum and $100 worth of DAI. Because of the risk of impermanent loss, many people are discouraged from providing liquidity. So if these DEXs want to attract larger liquidity providers like institutions, they need to find a way to get rid of impermanent loss. Secondly, if you wanted to be an LP to one of these liquidity pools, you would have to get exposure to another asset. For example, if I wanted to add liquidity to a DAI/ETH pool, I would have to have the dollar equivalent of Ethereum in DAI in order to participate in that pool. I'm sure what people would rather do is just provide liquidity in the token that they have with a single asset, rather than buying or getting exposure to another asset. And because of those two bottlenecks, Bancor has been having a tough time attracting liquidity providers. And the problem with Bancor is that they're reliant on these liquidity providers to minimize slippage and reduce fee. Currently, we have DEX aggregators like 1inch, for example, and they route orders across various DEXs and they try to get the best prices for their users. So pools that have the highest amount of liquidity are more likely to get orders routed to them. This is why it's very important for Bancor to do everything they can to offer very strong incentives to liquidity providers. All right, let's get to the fun stuff now. How is Bancor going to resolve the issue of impermanent loss and dual token exposure? Well, in this Medium article, which I'm going to link down below, mechanistically, this is how they're going to solve it. So essentially, you're going to have two pool tokens, one for each reserve. Unlike the Uniswap model and the previous Bancor model, you're not going to get one token for the two pools. You're going to get a token for a single pool. You can pick the one pool that you want to provide liquidity to. This way, you don't have to get exposure to another token that you don't necessarily want exposure to. And they're going to keep a running account of the staked balance. This way, they know how many tokens were provided by each user. And they're going to use dynamic weights. The pool is going to update reserve weights to incentivize market participants to equalize their current balance with the staked balance. So in other words, with dynamic weights, before you would have, let's say, Ethereum on one side, USDC on another side. If the price of Ethereum would go up, the amount of Ethereum would have to go down in order to maintain parity with the USDC. So for example, if the price of one Ethereum started at $100 and it went to 200, that pool would have 0.5 Ethereum left out of the original one after the pool rebalanced. With dynamic weighting, assuming that the incentives work out, when the price of Ethereum goes to $200, since the proportion of the fees disseminated to each side of the pool are going to remain 50-50, the pool with a smaller balance is going to share a larger piece of the pie with less people. So their respective yield for providing liquidity is going to go up. And as that rate goes up, presumably market participants are going to notice this and they're going to flock to provide liquidity, bringing the balance of USDC from 100 to 200 to match the dollar value of Ethereum. And what makes this possible is price feeds provided by Chainlink's Oracle. This is going to remove the opportunity that arbiters historically had. By quickly adjusting the weighting, arbiters won't have the opportunity to come in and extract value. Therefore, the risk of impermanent loss is significantly reduced. To wrap everything up, all you guys really need to understand is that with the deployment of these mechanisms, these techniques, Bancor hopes to significantly mitigate impermanent loss and also a means for investors to retain exposure to a single asset versus splitting it between two different assets. So if you're thinking about getting exposure to the Bancor token, here's some utility features that you should look over. To begin with, it's used as an intermediary. Every liquidity pool on Bancor must hold BNT or USDP, a stablecoin backed by Bancor. So in other words, it acts as a base token for every pool. So this means it's used in every trade on the Bancor network. It even acts as an intermediary token connecting pools and other networks like EOS. So for example, if you wanted to trade DAI to BAT, the conversion path looks like this. You go from DAI to BNT to BAT. This is important because with their new dynamic model for weighting pools, let's say the price of Link goes up, that means that the incentives for providing BNT to the other side of the pool are going to go up. Therefore, people either have to stake the tokens that they already own onto that side of the pool, or they have to buy tokens off another platform and then stake them in that pool. And the reason that's important is because it creates what many people refer to as a liquidity black hole. As people buy the token to stake it, the demand for the token goes up and the value of the token goes up as a result. Since every pool has BNT on one side, if the value of BNT goes up, the liquidity in all pools goes up. As the liquidity across the board goes up, that reduces the slippage, that reduces the fees, and you have DEX aggregators and other platforms diverting more traffic into the Bancor network. And in this model, you essentially have to have every pool, every token backed by a ratio of 1-to-1. So that's the first and perhaps the most important utility feature, because in my view, that's what's going to drive a lot of the growth and a lot of the price appreciation. Secondly, they're going to have this inflation model that the Bancor token holders are going to vote on soon. But in addition to collecting fees, they're also going to be distributing rewards with the BNT. It's going to be their version of liquidity mining. So let's say there's a pool out there that the community feels strongly about increasing the liquidity of, because they feel that pool will play a pivotal role of accelerating the growth of the Bancor network. Through inflation, they could provide additional rewards to liquidity providers. This way, in addition to getting fees generated by the pool, you would also be eligible to receive free BNT tokens on top of that. And lastly, Bancor is going to be a governance token. They have plans to decentralize and give away ownership of the protocol, and they're going to use the token to do this. In other words, because the token gives you governance rights, it gives you the right to vote on protocol proposals. In their view, it's like owning a piece of the protocol. In the latest update V2, they're going to unveil Bancor DAO, which again will allow BNT token holders to vote on upgrades to the Bancor protocol. In terms of my closing thoughts on how I feel about the platform, the network, I've decided to allocate pretty heavily into Bancor. I think there's a reasonable chance that they're going to deliver on some of the promises that they made. Impermanent loss is a huge barrier to liquidity providers. Aside from the massive Ethereum network fees, it's very prohibited to people that are eager to provide liquidity with their tokens, that are eager to experiment with the protocol. Assuming that they can deliver and they can reduce impermanent loss, you're going to see a lot more market participants get involved, because the prospects of making compounded returns on the various crypto assets that you own is a very compelling reason for many to put their crypto assets to work. For instance, if they're able to generate anywhere between 10 to 20% for the various ERC20 tokens, and they're able to do it reliably, sustainably, they're going to witness a huge flood of liquidity providers come into their ecosystem. And I've used this visual in the past to go over a different project that I like. As the author here says, liquidity begets liquidity. Right now, Bancor is well positioned to get a huge surge in liquidity. If that happens, they'll get less slippage, tighter spreads, but they'll also see fees reduced. And because that results in better pricing for traders, more of them will come and trade. This will increase the trading volume, and since there's more trading volume now, the liquidity providers will make larger profits. And if the rates go up, more liquidity providers will come in to provide additional liquidity. And on top of all that, you only need to provide liquidity with a single asset. You don't need to provide liquidity with two different assets. So for users that want to keep exposure just to the asset that they have a high conviction for example, if people want to take Link, keep their exposure to Link, but also have an opportunity to make passive income off of Link, Bancor could be the best option for them. Not only could the returns be in the double digit, but they'll also compound on top of that. And to even sweeten the deal further, remember I said that every Bancor pool has to have BNT or USDB in that pool. Because of their newly implemented dynamic pool model, every asset that they support on the platform will essentially have to be pegged to BNT. So for example, if the price of Link appreciates significantly, the other side of the pool will need additional Bancor to maintain parity with the Link side of the pool. So one of two things need to happen. Either Bancor's price needs to go up, or people need to buy BNT to stake it onto the other side of the pool. There's no guarantee that it's going to achieve that parity, but they do have incentives in place to make sure that happens. With that model, as the price of these other tokens go up, so will the price of BNT. So again, because they've reduced the barrier to entry by mitigating impermanent loss and enabling users to provide single token liquidity, and most importantly, by using BNT as an intermediary token, I'm very optimistic about the token's future. After learning all of this, I've decided to get some exposure. Currently, the token's sitting roughly around $2. And in my judgment, we're actually on the next big macro leg up. And because I feel that way, like I said earlier, I've decided to get exposure to the token. If you guys have any interest in buying the token, I'll include links to exchanges where you could purchase the token. And if you guys have any interest in talking more about the project, I welcome you guys again to join my Discord channel by clicking the link in the description below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you guys give me a like. I'd love to hear your thoughts and insights in the comment section below. If you're not a subscriber already, make sure you guys subscribe and click that notification bell. This is CryptoOneStop signing out. I'll talk to you folks next time. Bye.